So this will be an acrylic. So carrying on the coastal scenes theme. So this will be the last week on this particular project. Next week, I'm going to. We should have a Halloween thing. Next week, I'll start the next project. So the next project is on, it's sort of portraits, and particularly concentrating on features to start with. But I've also ordered lino, so I'm going to also demonstrate the lino printing for any of you that would like to have a go at that. So that one can be like an ongoing project for a couple of months, as we'll really be able to get everybody doing that all at once because of the amount of tools and things that we'll need. But I thought I'd do the demonstration. Hopefully the lino will arrive, but if not, I'll do the demonstration anyway, just with what I've got, and then we can make a start on that. So that'll be the theme for next week. So next month, and what I'll do is I'll check if anybody's got any money to carry over as well, and I'll do that over the weekend as well. So next month is a 4-week month. Okay. Right, okay, so this was, so what I did last week was had a look at, well, a couple of things, but this was the idea of working from sketches. So the idea of getting a painting up from sketches. And something I'd quite like to explore a bit for myself, because I don't really do very much of this, but I was rather quite like my sketch here, and almost liked it more than the photos really. So I thought, well, I'll do something based on both. So this photo, I think both of them were taken at the same time I did the sketch. This little group of figures here for this group, but they were obviously not exactly the same time I did the sketch. So what I did was, last week I just showed you could kind of scan your sketches into the computer and then print them off and make alterations if you wanted. So the idea was sort of making these figures a little bit bigger. And then from there, what I did was put some pastel on the back and then trace that onto the board. So I can literally go from my sketch and trace that. And I've done this once or twice. And it's quite a nice way of, if you can work out all your drawing in a drawing and then trace that down. And the other thing is, if I wanted, if I lost some of the drawing, I should be able to, that little mark there should align with the bottom of the board. So I should be able to go back in and retrace areas if I've lost my drawing, which it's very difficult to actually find the lines once you get some paint on. I put a little bit of an underpainting here. I was thinking things like gravel and these, our beaches are very gravelly. To get that kind of texture, you could, some people you could sort of maybe splatter some paint at it. That's one way of working. I quite like to just use almost like some dry brush marks. So if I've got, say, some colour, maybe a little bit darker, kind of a brown and grey, and then something like that. Almost like just kind of drag this being acrylic, so the nice thing about this is it will dry quite quickly. So you could do a sort of dry brush, just to break up the texture. I'll make that a little bit darker because it's not really showing up. And this might be a bit darker than what I'd want, but at least you'll see what I'm going to do. So around here it's quite dark feel. So you could, and actually in my sketch there's almost like a line of seaweed and that sort of thing going through the middle. This particular board, I think I've used it a couple of times, so it's got quite a strong texture anyway, and I quite like the way that picks up the brush marks. So that's one way you might be able to create some texture. So that's using the dark, and I could also go over areas with a lighter colour. So I'll just use some pure white here. Again, this probably will come out a little bit too bright. It's a way of, I just don't want too much paint on the brush. I'm using the brush quite flat, just getting that sort of dry brush. That's sometimes the way I've tried to suggest textures without being absolutely literal. And then maybe occasionally just wanted to dots and dashes here and there. Sometimes that works quite nicely. And if they're too bright, I just soften them out with my fingers to blur them a little bit. And the same with the dark. You might get a few. Sort of try and do that in a fairly random way. Just kind of suggests the feel of the surfaces really. Yeah, all this is underpainting. This is acrylics, and I found that actually what I've done is I've lightened that bit because I popped down the colour that I wanted, and it seemed to come out too dark. Which acrylics quite often will go a little bit darker than when they dry. They dry a bit darker. One of the challenges for me with acrylics. Is that enough? Any questions?
What's that thing that looks like an ice cream cone sticking up?
Where we're going here?
On the right.
Here.
Yeah.
That would be people.
Oh, that's people.
Yeah, well, it's going to be people. So it's going to be, yeah, so I had a couple of people here.
Oh.
So that will turn into people. I'll carry that on people. So really what I've done is I've just kind of left a gap around the shape and started some darks.
Is that the actual shape of the person? Because you'd have to get the same colour blue back again, otherwise, wouldn't you? So
Yeah.
that's what I find sometimes. I'm not sure.
Well, let's have a little go at that then. I'll do it more from the sketch because I don't actually have a photo of those two. Just working kind of from the heads down. That could be the top of the two heads in. It's not quite the right shape actually because she's got one arm kind of coming down here, which is probably, yeah, I mean, if I looked at some of these other figures, they're mostly in shadow with a little bit of light on their right hand side, so I need to make something up equivalent to that. That's a shadow around there. Just going a bit random with the colours, a little bit of green in there. I think I've made her legs a bit too wide at the bottom. It's coming down a little bit for a waist. A little bit taller. And she's got one arm about this way for some reason. Let's go from slightly darker bits around her hair. And then face seems too bright, I'll turn that down a little bit. Probably something a little bit like that, but I also want to put a few highlights in. Yeah, they're definitely catching little bits of light there. And it might be that, say, one leg catches a bit of light. Probably trick figure something like that. Really with this sort of thing, I've got to try and get some paint everywhere and then I can then see what needs adjusting.
Thank you.